Hey, Lisa.
Hi there, Christina. How are you today?
I am well. Look at you with your broadcaster voice.
I have to use the broadcaster voice occasionally. What are you up to today? Are you baking anything interesting?
Let's see here. I've been in my bread baking era right now, and
Oh,
I'm not mad about it. So I think it's maybe, when we had Larry baking with us, he
the
really
Shokopan.
did. Oh my goodness, Chocopan. I'm going to be baking
So
some of
good.
that this weekend, actually. But I did make some sandwich bread because
Yes.
in prep to do the Chocopan, I actually had to buy those Pullman loaf pans.
Yes.
And so now I'm trying to get some good use out of them. So I
Yes.
made some sandwich bread recently, which turned out really well. And of course, make the absolute best grilled cheese
Grilled cheese.
sandwiches.
So good.
So I am happy about that. But
Yes.
yeah, just baking lots of bread lately, and yeah, it's kind of you're getting into fall
Fall.
and
It's homey.
hibernation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How about
Yeah.
you?
I feel you for sure. I decided I was going to do kind of a little pretend pop-up bakery. Now, every once in a while, I just feel like baking something, and then I'll just put it up on my Facebook and be like, "Who wants some of this?" Um, and I just felt like doing that, so I made a big chocolate slab cake yesterday. Put some rum in
Yum
it, of
yum.
course, and
Shocking.
then I wanted to make a gluten-free something, and I didn't want it to just be like, here's chocolate cake and here's a gluten-free chocolate cake. I wanted something different. And I have discovered, that I don't really like florals to eat. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
But I discovered elderberry syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Elderflower, there.
Elderflower.
Yeah, sorry,
Mm.
elderflower.
Yum.
And
My
I
favorite.
can't, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much I love it. So I bought myself some of that. And so yesterday, the gluten-free bake that I made it's got some gluten-free flour in it. It's also kind of, the bulk of it is almond flour base.
Mhm.
And I made a pear, elderflower, strawberry almond cake.
Those two
And just,
flavors
just
pair up
nice little
so
one.
beautifully.
It's so good. I really, really enjoyed that. I hope other people will enjoy it. I have a few gluten-free friends, so I'm excited to kind of reach out and say, "Hey, I got something for you." My husband took one bite. It was still warm, and said, "It's raw in the middle." No, he bit
Uh,
into a pear, which of course is
oh,
very soft, and so then I was kind of rethinking, do I really want to be giving this to people? Are they going to think it's raw? It's not raw.
no, but also the almond flour, I think, depending on how much almond flour is in there, it'll be a moisture, denser
Moisture.
kind of cake, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, which
Yeah.
might, to some people,
Yeah. I'm just gonna
maybe
have
feel,
to taste test it again this morning and see
yeah,
if it's good enough to give to people.
yeah, yeah. And I think there's less worry. Well, I guess depending on if there were eggs in there, but I mean,
Mhm.
it would be a high enough temperature
Oh, yeah.
that it'd be
Yeah.
fine. So
Yes.
from that
Yeah.
consumption standpoint, you should be totally good.
Totally fine. It's
Yeah.
completely kitchen safe or whatever you call that. Not for people
Food
who are
safe.
allergic to nuts, but, you know,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
don't buy almond loaves if you're allergic to nuts. Goes without
No.
saying.
No.
Keep your EpiPen handy. You ever see those movies and people are just like, "Oh no, I accidentally had peanuts," and I'm like, "Well, where's your EpiPen?"
I
You
know.
know?
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think
I
we.
hear you. But I have a one of my nieces that
Mhm.
is has severe allergies to
Ugh,
all sorts of things. And she's outgrown some as she's gotten
yeah.
older, but
Mhm.
she still has the occasional like reaction.
Mhm, mhm.
And one she had one recently that and she ended up in the hospital
Oh man,
with
it's terrifying.
yeah, and here's somebody that should be carrying an
Oh
EpiPen.
no.
She's an adult as well.
Mm.
Like she's 25. I don't know that
Then again,
yeah. Yeah.
I cannot, negate the fact that they are extremely expensive if you don't have
Mm,
coverage, which I think is very stupid also.
I
So,
don't
then I should
disagree
go,
with you.
"Government of Canada, why are you not giving EpiPens to people who need EpiPens to
Yeah.
carry on them at all times?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Mhm.
think that's a totally fair thing that I would not mind my taxes to pay for because
Yes.
think about it. It's cheaper to provide them with EpiPens than a
Mhm.
hospital visit
Yeah.
or worse. right?
This is what we call upstream
Very similar.
thinking.
Yeah.
This is what we in the nursing industry in nursing call upstream thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just preventative medicine. I mean, there should
Exactly.
be a bit more of that. But hey,
Yes.
look at that. We're going
Now we're
into it.
nurses.
Well, you're a
Okay.
nurse. I am.
Yeah, I forgot.
I just rant.
Moving on. Speaking of the sciences, we have
Yes.
someone with us today who actually is trained as a neuroscientist.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, and
Neuroscientist to pastry chef.
I was
I
going to say,
can,
people are going to say, why do you have a neuroscientist on baking scraps? But this is why, because now he is a pastry chef.
yeah, but you know what? It's not out of the realm of possibilities, because we've talked to quite a number of, people who've made it onto the Great Canadian Baking Show that actually have very strong science backgrounds.
Yeah.
So, and it's quite similar in that
Mhm.
sense, right? Here's your recipe, here's your science experiment, and you follow the steps, step by step, by step by
Chemistry.
step.
It's definitely chemistry. So it's one of those things that are kind of important to get right. Whether
Totally.
you're doing it in people's brains or whether you're doing it in a in a baking pan.
Yeah.
Not as important in the baking pan.
Well, it depends on who you talk to.
All right. I'm glad you're not a nurse / doctor / neuroscientist. Anyway.
No, I was in sales, consumer packaged goods
Yes.
sales forever. So
Very different.
yeah, definitely not in science, not a science person at all. Maybe
Better-
slightly agricultural product.
Mhm. Slightly.
Maybe. Yeah. So
But now you're a baker, just like our lovely guest today.
baker / podcaster / consultant.
Mom.
Yeah. There you go.
Always mom. Yeah.
Always mom. Best title ever.
So Saïd,
yes.
he's known on Instagram as the Pastry Nerd. Actually, has his own website, thepastrynerd.com, I believe. His blog is on there, and he gives classes or has online classes. And yeah, it's going to be really interesting talking to him. I'm excited.
I am too. I think what excites me the most is his family has a background in vanilla farming.
Mm-hmm. Jealous.
Totally jealous. I'd be like bathing in it if I had that much access to vanilla, I think. And my house, vanilla beans are rationed in my home.
Yes.
If I have a little stash of vanilla beans, it only goes into like really, really special bakes. Otherwise I use a lot of vanilla, but then I stock up when I go to Mexico or I buy the pure vanilla, but out of Costco in the US because it's pure there. The Canadian one actually has water in it. Do you know that? They watered it down.
What?
Check your bottles at home.
I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, I'm a little jealous of Saïd having a family vanilla empire as well. But I am very excited to talk with him about how he went from being a neuroscientist to being a pastry chef. So let's all say a warm welcome to Saïd. Thank you for joining us today, Saïd.
Welcome to Baking Scraps, the Sweet Talk. So excited to have you join us today.
Super excited to be with you today.
We're very happy to have you here. I'm excited to meet you. We had scheduled an earlier podcast, and then literally the only communication I've had with you is saying, sorry, you can't do the podcast today. Can we do it for another time? So I'm glad to actually have the chance to chat with you and to learn a little bit about your background and what you're doing and share your amazingness with everybody who watches the Baking Scraps or listens to us. So thank you.
And you have such an incredible story. So before we actually get into that, the first thing we usually do is ask our guests what they've been baking lately. So what have you been baking lately?
Lately, yesterday I baked. There's so many things. Just yesterday I baked 1, 2, 3 things. So it depends on whether you are asking. Let's talk about yesterday. So yesterday I baked a pistachio souffle, vanilla cream puff, Yeah, and
Mm.
that was a good day yesterday.
That sounds
Wow.
like a good day.
Yes. So two relatively challenging bakes, the souffle and choux pastry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and croissants. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of croissants recently, uh,
oh,
just for social
They're
media.
beautiful.
For I've been asked to do some consulting. So yeah, lots of croissants.
Oh,
that
I when I saw your croissant on your Instagram page, I was just like, that is the perfect croissant. I'm jealous because I want to make them that perfectly and because I want to eat it.
right. All right. So let's start with your journey. You grew up on a very small island just off the coast of Mozambique, between Mozambique and Madagascar, I think, called, if I'm not pronouncing it incorrectly, Mayotte. It's a French territory.
So actually, no. Sorry. I was actually born in Paris.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I was born and raised there, and I left about 10 years ago for Canada. But my parents are from Comoros. That's where they grew up, and they moved to France about 39 years ago.
And so you came to Canada. Why?
The reason why I came to Canada is for work. So in Paris, I was a neuroscience researcher. So I got a PhD in neuroscience, and I was looking for a job as a researcher everywhere in the
Oh, this
world.
is
Just
Oh,
wanted
no.
to have a
Yeah.
change of environment, and I found a research position at the University of Calgary in Calgary.
oh, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how does a neuroscientist go
Er,
from being a researcher and being so entrenched in that world and holding a PhD, which is a huge feat. So how do you go from being a neuroscientist to a master pastry maker?
Um, it was a long process to begin with. It was a very long process, actually. Um, I I just missed French pastry a lot. So because I'm from Paris, there's bakeries everywhere in Paris, everywhere you go to. And I was just, when you have something every day and you don't realize that you're actually lucky to have it
yes.
until you lose it. That's what happened to me. The minute when I moved to Calgary, I realized that there were two very good bakeries, but I was so spoiled by Paris and the hundreds of bakeries, and I started to miss some of the things that you can only
Yeah.
find in France and not necessarily in Canada. And I started to bake those specific desserts. So one of them is the Saint Honoré. I don't know if you know this one, but it's
Yes.
basically
Oh, love.
puff
Mm, mhm.
pastry, cream puffs, uh, pastry cream, very, very complicated dessert. But I
So
really missed it because I couldn't find it anywhere here. And that's how I started. I started with that dessert, which was a big mistake because it was very hard. I do not recommend anyone to start with this dessert. But
Go big or
eventually,
go home, right?
yeah, I was this close to go home actually because it was that difficult to make that dessert. But yeah, eventually
mhm.
I just started to love pastry. I started to love, being precise, and that's what I was used to in science. You have to be precise. You
Yes.
have to measure everything, and I loved
Mhm.
finding this part here, but also loved, the flavors, sharing with friends and family. And yeah, I had been baking now for almost 10 years.
And
Yeah.
prior to doing that, getting into your kitchen, baking such an elaborate dessert, did you have any baking experience before that, or did you just decide I'm this can't how difficult could this be?
That's
I'm just
exactly
going to get in
Why didn't
there
you
and I'm
start
going
with
to
a baguette?
that was exactly my
or
mentality.
Rice
Actually,
Krispie squares, like
I
most
had
people do.
I had zero experience baking. I mean, I made the occasional brownie, like all of us, but
Yeah.
I had zero
Yeah.
experience in baking, and I was so naive. I remember the day I
Yeah. I
did that
really had
Santa
no
Noria,
idea.
I thought, how difficult can that be? It's just a cake. It's just dessert. Like whatever. Yeah, I was humbled very, very quickly.
I
I
believe
bet.
it.
I guess it would be almost the equivalent of us going, neuroscientist. How difficult could that be?
Right? I
Right?
have a brain. Like, why couldn't I
So,
study the
kind of the
brain? I
same
have
thing,
one.
because there is a lot of science, and maybe is
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have a brain. I can figure that out.
exactly right. And it's also about having the passion. And I guess you missed your amazing pastries in Paris. And how lucky were you to grow up there and be surrounded by so many incredible bakeries and boulangeries and all the pastry shops and everything and anything you would want. So readily available. And then coming to Calgary about 10 years ago, I mean, I think nowadays they're starting to get a little bit better. There's really been a huge movement, and maybe thanks to people like you coming in and really demanding that or wanting that or you know bringing that to the forefront a little bit more, or people traveling and coming back and wanting things like that. So going to being in Calgary and not having that, and then going, I miss home so much, and I miss these pastries so much that I'm going to start baking. I think that's just it's such a cool story.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're right about the Calgary scene. The Calgary scene changed so much in the last 10 years. Like when I moved here 10 years ago, there was
Yeah.
about two good bakeries. Now there's like at least 10, 15, and a very good one with some of them are just as good as what you can find in Paris. So
Nice.
I have not been to Paris. Christina
You
has.
have to go.
I know I do have to go. But now
where
you
are
both
you
can kind of
located
tell me
right
the good
now?
spots to go to.
Oh,
I'm in
sorry, where are you?
Victoria, BC.
Okay, what about you, Christina?
Yeah.
I'm in White Rock, just outside of Vancouver.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So not like just a hop, skip, and jump away from Paris, but
No, takes a
Kind
little
of
bit of
far.
travel or a little bit of time and effort to get out there. But yeah, what a
yeah.
beautiful city, though, and be so beautifully showcased over the last month or so during the Olympics too. And definitely want to go back there sooner than later again.
Yeah, let me know. I'll give you the good spots.
That would be fantastic. I fumbled my way through. I was in Paris by myself actually for about 5 days, and just had and I just love walking everywhere. So I think I put in my first 3 days there, I did 52 kilometers just walking. And
Yeah,
that was
Impressive.
just in the afternoons only, actually, because in the mornings I was doing on 2 of the days I was actually I took a croissant course and then I took a choux pastry course while I was there through La Cuisine de Paris, I think it's called. Is that what it's
cool.
called? Yeah.
Cool, yeah. I
So
love it. And the one thing that I really love about Paris, or at least that's the way I roam in Paris, is I look at the map, see a bakery that I might like, and instead of taking the metro, the subway, I just walk there. So this way I'm getting some exercise and I know I'm gonna have a nice reward at the end, right?
right, it's called balance. Right.
Exactly.
So you do the exercise, there's zero guilt when you finally have that bite, and you can really truly enjoy and indulge in that moment
So
when you take that bite.
Christina, what delicious indulgences did those 52 kilometers earn you?
All sorts of different things. I ate my way through Paris when I was there. I had crepes, I had French onion soup, of course, which they just call onion soup, not
Onion
French
soup.
onion soup,
Yeah.
just onion soup. What else? And then all the pastries. Like I had at least a croissant every single day. I had a ton of choux pastry, uh, like anything and everything. I mean,
Oh,
macaron, of course.
yes, she's big
So
on macarons.
yeah, so
Mhm.
yeah, so good. I mean, everything's. I'm sure with your experience, Said, you probably know the creme de la creme of French patisserie. So I'd love to pick your brain on those next time I go to Paris. But I don't think I had a bad bite anywhere when I was in Paris. So either pure luck or just I
It's
was just so
Paris.
happy to
That's
be
what it
there.
is.
It's
I
the
think
romance
everything.
of the city.
Okay,
Yeah.
so explain a little bit more then about. So I heard your family has a vanilla farm.
Yeah. So, um, It's actually, I would say it's actually one of the reasons why I fell in love with baking so much is
Mhm.
the vanilla part. Um, the Santonori cake is the one of my favorite cake and is full of vanilla. And I've always had that big nostalgia when I'm eating this kind of cake. And and it's because my grandmother was a vanilla farmer
Mhm.
and she used to grow vanilla in her village, and she used to have a co-op with other vanilla farmers in
Oh, that's great.
the country, and she would sell vanilla to to people outside of Comoros. And she did that for a long time. And at some point, she had to stop because I don't know if you know, but vanilla has lots of ups and downs when it comes to its price market.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But only
I
recently, my uncle started to like he took over the farm. He's working on it. He's growing vanilla again, and it's been crazy for me to see that industry come back because vanilla is such. I don't know how to explain that. Like vanilla is so nostalgic to me. Like every time I bake something that has vanilla in it, the smell makes me think of my grandmother, and it's like a very comforting smell to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I love baking so much, because there's vanilla in almost everything, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So every time I'm baking, every I'm doing something that feels comforting for me just by
Mhm.
Yeah.
smelling what I'm
Yes,
baking.
vanilla seems to be people take it for granted. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think
I
so.
actually think it's a compliment when somebody calls me vanilla because I
Right?
love vanilla as well,
I
right?
cannot, and I get so mad when people say that something is vanilla because
Right?
it's bland or without any flavor. Vanilla has so much
I take it as a
flavor.
real compliment personally because vanilla is, I mean, what would life be like without vanilla?
Mhm.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
so
Nothing.
exaggerating a
complex.
little bit, but it's so
No,
complex,
that's
and especially if you're using vanilla beans. And I think it's I'm going maybe on a tangent here, but I think it's because lots of people use very cheap vanilla extract that doesn't smell
yes.
good, that
Mhm.
doesn't taste good, and because of that, they think vanilla is not great. But yeah, vanilla is amazing. Get some vanilla.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is it's my favorite thing when I go down to Mexico is to get the cheap vanilla because it's very inexpensive there, but it is such delicious stuff compared
Hmm.
to what we can get here.
What we can get here. So,
Yeah.
do you still have access to vanilla from your old family farm?
Yes, I do. I still have access to it.
Oh,
Actually, because the farm is growing since last year. So last year I actually sold some of my uncle's vanilla. This year I'm gonna have a batch that I'm gonna have available by Christmas. But yeah, I still have access to that vanilla farm. And this is gonna sound crazy, but I learned just a month ago that actually the land is under my name. So I thought I thought it was just my grandmother and my uncle taking care of it, but apparently this is my vanilla. This is
Wow.
my land. But yeah, I still do have access to my vanilla, I guess. But I just learned that last month because before that, I just wasn't really because I wasn't interested in food. I was just a very nerdy scientist. I didn't care about vanilla, about what my grandmother was doing. And yeah, I was just told that my grandmother just put that land under my name, which is amazing.
wow.
That's like a gold mine. It's like discovering that you're sitting on a gold mine. That's
Totally.
amazing.
On all levels, like not only the cool part that you actually have a vanilla farm, but you actually have access and you can bake with your own vanilla
Yeah.
that is, been in your family for so many generations, and now that you're actually a part of that, which is like
Mhm.
so crazy and amazing all at the same
Your
time. You're
grandmother
so
knew.
lucky.
I do feel lucky, and I do feel lucky every time I'm using this vanilla to bake anything. It's almost like a special moment, and I have lots of it, but I still every time I use
Yeah.
it,
Mhm.
it's I feel like it's gonna sound cliche, but I feel like I'm connected to my grandmother. I'm connected to the land, and I'm putting all of those flavors into something that I'm gonna bake that I'm gonna eat today, right?
I love that.
Yeah, that is incredible. And feeling that sense of, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and really having that sense of place and that connection to that family and paying homage to, their all their the fruits of their labor, quite
Mhm.
literally, and being able to create incredible, beautiful works of art, edible art that you do with this beautiful vanilla. It's just, yeah, you're living the dream life, I think.
I think so. I think so.
Well, how did you make that transition from I'm always curious as to how people are like, all right, here I am working this sort of job and I'm, actually making a living, etc. And then, well, no, I would like to do this totally different thing and I would like to be a foodie and I would like to bake for full time or whatever. Actually how do you make a living doing that? How do you transition? How do you go from being a neuroscientist to being recognized as the foodie of the year in Western Canada? Like, tell me how that
I
works.
wish I could give you a straight answer, and I wish I had the answer. I still do not have it, but I have some elements to it. It's a very,
Me too.
very good question. And to sum it up, so what happened is that in 2020, I had been baking for a few years then, um, but I didn't like my job anymore. And I thought, okay, let's do something with baking because it seems like people finally realize that baking is cool. So let's try to see if we can,
Mm.
make a living out of it. And at first, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So the first thing I did was, okay, what are the options? Option one, sell my bakes. Option two, teach. Option three, be an influencer, a content creator influencer. But I knew that for
Mhm.
whichever goal objective I had, I needed to create a social media account, and I needed
Hmm.
to post and see what would happen. So I took some classes, photography classes, videography classes, and I started to post. And first I posted about I sold my bakes. I had pop-up events, because I thought that's what I would love to do. That I hated it.
Hmm.
I hated it. It was I mean, I love baking, but when you have to bake hundreds of desserts and they all have to more or less look the
Hmm.
same, and it's a very repetitive task, and it's a very
Yeah.
difficult task. Breaks your back hurts, like everything hurts. It's hard, so I didn't like it. So after that, I decided to
Mm.
to focus on teaching with Zoom classes because that's what was working at that time. Then created like Cool Pastry Academy online, and yeah, so
Hmm.
I went to different directions, but I'm not sure if I really answered your question. You're asking me if I'm making like how do I make a living out of it? It's how I make a living out of it. It really depends on the year. Some years it works really, really well, and I sell tons of courses and classes, and
Right.
some years not really. So it's all about
Okay.
learning how to ride the waves.
Mhm.
Yeah. So were you working, you were doing your regular job, your neuroscientist job,
I
Just a
was
and
regular
not.
job.
just regular job.
No,
Um, okay, you
no.
stopped and then okay.
I was in 2020. I just decided to go full time on
Wow.
content creation and baking.
Wow.
Because
That's a leap of faith.
neuroscience, yeah, it's a leap of faith, but it was also almost um, mandatory. I had to because being a researcher in neuroscience, like I would have really often 12 hours days, and I don't
Mhm.
know how I would be able to work as a neuroscientist, build a business at the same time. Um, it would have been very difficult. I know it's possible. I know some people make it, but it would have been extremely difficult.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, you can burn yourself out pretty quickly. I mean, even just doing that kind of job for 12 hours, 12 hours at a time of like really intense mental work, not necessarily physical work. I mean, I was a nurse. I am a nurse. I was a nurse in the operating room. Um, and then moved into labor and delivery. And the 12-hour shifts, they drain you. And sometimes I find even that the mental and emotional work is the hardest part of those
Mm,
long
I,
shifts. So
I agree with you. It's the mental, like there's nothing. I remember going home after a long shift, and they would not happen often, but they would happen. And you go home after a long shift, and your brain is just blank, and like there's nothing going on, and
yeah.
you're supposed and imagine if you have a business, you're supposed to go home and figure out the strategy, posting it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can be a lot.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot. I'm only working part-time right now, but adding on all the baking scrap stuff into it is kind of like, oh, every day when Christina's like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm not sure."
Mm.
It's still super fun though.
Yeah.
Not going to
Yeah.
stop anytime soon. Just trying to find
Good.
that balance, right? So, but
Mhm.
I envy that that you were just like, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do
Mhm.
it, and you just like jumped right into it. So I really applaud you for that.
Yeah. And doing it so you made the decision and then you just went head
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
into this new passion. And obviously, like you were saying, some years it works really, really amazing. Some years are a little leaner, but at the end of the day, you're doing something that really gets you up in the morning and you're so passionate about, and you're so incredibly talented to boot. The pastries that you create, they're just absolutely stunning. And I love that you're putting together the Pastry Academy, the Pastry Nerd academy online, so that other people can actually find their passions in the world of pastry. I think you're really inspiring a lot of people to get grab their apron and get in their kitchens and really start creating and producing some really beautiful things.
Mhm.
Thank you, thank you.
So
Um,
Mm.
so how so how did that come about? Doing the online pastry academy training program.
Um, I was um, I noticed pretty quickly when I was started posting my bakes, my cakes, and so on, that a lot of people were really intimidated and that they thought that they would
Mm.
never be able to bake anything that I would be making. And even though I tried to say to people, I had no baking experience before, and my cakes were really, really bad. Uh, but
Oh, I doubt that.
people still did not believe me. Um, but
yeah.
I I wanted to create a school with courses where people could learn not from a professional, but from someone like me who is not gifted. Like I'm not a gifted baker. I'm not someone who started to bake since I was a kid with my mother or grandmother. And when I say that I'm not a gifted baker, I'm not saying that I'm not good right now. I think I'm good right now,
Yeah.
but it took a lot of effort. I'm very clumsy, actually. I'm extremely clumsy. I'm not good with my hands. And people don't believe me when I say that, but I have to repeat gestures hundreds of times. And I realize how clumsy I am
Mhm.
when I'm with my wife, and it takes her one take, one shot to do something that took me 20. uh, and I
Wow.
wanted for people to realize, hey, you don't have to be an incredible baker to begin with. Let me show you how to bake that thing, how to make sure that it doesn't fail, how to if
Mhm.
something fails, how can you fix it? And if you cannot fix it, okay, what can you learn from it?
Yes.
And that's why all of my courses, there's always like a big section which is FAQ, where I'm like, okay, what if this happens, or this, or this, or this? Like, what if you have all those different problems? Because when you're baking, problems are gonna happen, mistakes are gonna happen. We're humans. We're not supposed to be
Yeah.
perfect. So that's what I had in mind when I created my courses. I thought, let's make something for someone. Let's create a course for someone who's not a gifted baker, or not a very advanced baker, where they can feel okay, when they can feel comfortable making mistakes, but I'm still gonna give them tips on how to overcome those mistakes.
Yes.
That's
That's huge.
fabulous.
That makes a
Yeah.
huge difference to people, and it makes it accessible to them. You know, you're kind of bringing the two extremes together a little bit, the people who have never baked and the people who have worked hard to become good at baking, and kind of being like, okay, where can we meet in the middle here so that I can bring you up to where you want to be, and to give them the opportunities to fix mistakes or learn from them, or both,
Mhm.
is huge, which is partially why we like to incorporate our baking craps sequences in our social media, to make sure that people know that, I mean, we're not professionals by any sense of the word, but this is what happens in baking, and it's okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
fun. Laugh at it.
and I think it's funny, and I think I realized very quickly on social media how many people are really afraid of making mistakes. And sometimes
Mhm.
I've received DMs of people telling me that they're a failure because they didn't do something right. And I'm like, hey,
Mm.
we're supposed to bake, we're supposed to have fun. You're not supposed to be perfect. Let's just have
Yeah.
fun. Let's have fun and bake.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because even when you do have some baking fails, which does happen, there are so many things that can go wrong at any given moment. It's easy to do that, forget something or whatever, right? So process wasn't quite right. You didn't cool it off long enough, or it's humid or whatever. There's so many different factors. But even failed bakes can be really tasty, delicious. So
Hmm.
you as is, or you could actually pivot them into something else and make something else with them, right? Like you can do trifles if you have like a failed cake, or you could use them, bake them down a
Cake
little further, and
pops.
you can use them as or cake pops. Yeah, cake pops are a great one.
Yeah.
Macarons, you can put them in ice creams, like different things like that, or you can put them as fillings or all that kind of stuff. So
I like that
endless
idea.
opportunities.
I love the macaron ice
Endless
cream
opportunities
idea.
to make something else with it. I
Mhm.
like to call them happy accidents, because sometimes you get something that's like really cool as a result as well, that
Yeah.
maybe you didn't even know. So, yeah. So,
I like to make my brother-in-law loves Toblerone. So, and he has everything and in the world. And when he wants something, he just goes and buys it. So for Christmas, it's really difficult to get him something. So I always make Toblerone fudge for him. And so
mm,
one year I
Mm.
decided that I would make this Toblerone fudge and give it to everybody. But for my sister and brother-in-law, not the same sister and brother-in-law, on my husband's side, the fudge that I made never set. And so it was just
Oh.
runny. And so I ended up giving them a jar of ice cream topping instead of giving them Toblerone fudge.
perfect.
So
And I bet it was dang delicious.
it tasted the same. It just, you
Yeah.
couldn't eat it the same way.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about baking, because yes, it's about being precise, but you can always find a way to reuse, to upcycle
Hmm.
any of your failed bakes, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's fun. Then you
Absolutely.
discover those new things that are like, holy cow, that's delicious. Why did I never think to do it that way before? The wrong
Macaroni and
way
ice
ended up
cream.
being the right.
Macaroni and ice cream, I'm gonna steal that idea, because at some point I
Oh,
had so many macarons and I didn't know what to do with them. Just put them in ice cream.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. It wasn't my original idea. I wish I could take credit for it, but I did see that on Instagram, and
take
at one
credit.
point I can't remember who it
It's
was,
you,
but I'm
it's you.
sure. Okay, sure.
We'll give
We'll
you the
go
credit.
we'll go with that one. But yeah, but you could also, crunch them down, like bake them down a little further so they get nice and crunchy. You can put them in between your cake layers too for a little extra cake flavoring too. Mhm. Right?
Look
I'm a
at that. We're
macaron
human
baker,
ideas.
so I too have my fair share of macarons, we'll call them. So it's all good. So yeah, so I mean that's the fun part about it, especially when you're experimenting with different flavors or things like that. And sometimes they go well, and other times you can
Not
use them
so
for
well.
something else.
Not so well. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So
Well, we came up with this podcast idea because we've been trying to get on the Great Canadian Baking Show for years. So, was that ever something that crossed your radar? Crossed your mind?
uh, it did. It did cross my radar. Actually, a few years back, I um, so back when had just moved here and I didn't know the version, the Great Canadian Baking Show, I applied for the French version of it in France. Um,
there's the French.
and yeah, there's a French one, which is yeah quite a big one. And I think I applied. I happened to apply that for their 10-year the 10-year anniversary of the show, and they were 20,000 applicants. I didn't get in, but I was
Really?
in the top 20, and they and
Wow.
16 people go in the tent.
Oh,
So,
oh,
but
man.
you
And then
know
you didn't
you
want to do it again or try again.
no, I didn't try again, and after that I was like, okay, maybe I should do the Great Canadian Baking Show. Um, I don't know. At some point, I just decided not to try again. I don't know what happened. There was a shift in my brain, and I thought maybe not.
Mhm.
But I dreamt of doing it for so long, for years. I thought this is what I have to do. This is where I have to go. I should apply.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And I think I saw that you two decided not to apply again.
Well, I think Christina's still on the fence.
I'm on the fence.
I'm still, it's still in my brain that I know at around the January, February, I'm starting to plan out what I'm going to do for my audition bake.
Mm,
It's just really hard to know. Like, we are moving into this, and who knows how this would affect my chances, like whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing that we're kind of, chatting with all these people and, um, kind of trying to make a name for ourselves. I don't know if it would work, but it will probably be my last time trying if I
Mm.
try this year. I know I'm shifting
mm,
a little bit. So I
Wow.
it's I'm understanding what you're saying, Saeed, how it's
Yeah.
like you kind of move into a different direction, possibly. I'm not quite there yet. I still really, really want to be on that show.
Yeah. Well, and it's been such a dream for so long
Hmm.
for both of us, and I think it is. I think anytime you have this vision, or you want it to manifest in so badly, right?
Yeah.
mm,
And then you just you keep running into that wall
Hmm.
season after season. And I don't know. I mean, I kind of like what we're doing right now too. And it's kind of fun. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I was applying was to have that family, that baking
Hmm.
family, right? And having people that you could, contact and say, hey, can you, I know you're an expert, or you've got these great skills in XYZ. What tips do you have for me? That kind of stuff. And I think as part of what we're doing now, and through our connections on Instagram, and having great conversations with so many incredible bakers and talented people from around the world now, it's like, okay, we are family. We have this
Hmm.
beautiful baking community that we're part of, and we're bringing more people along with us, hopefully, in using our platform here, the Baking Scraps, to get more people excited about baking and talking about baking and learning how to bake, and taking their baking to that next level if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's like, is that enough? And we'll
Hmm.
see. I mean,
Yeah.
like you, Lisa, January will roll around and I'm like, maybe I'll give it one more go, so we'll see when that time comes, and we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, I'm
And I'm sure.
okay. I think I'm at peace with it not happening. I guess that's sort of where I'm at right now. I'm at peace that it might not ever happen for me.
And I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I can feel myself kind of starting to move into that direction, but no, I can't say it for sure at this point.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that your audience know that, but if not, it's not because you don't get in that you're not talented. It's so incredibly competitive. There's so many people wanting to go in that show. And also one thing that I guess not many people think about it is that when they cast for the people who are going to be on the show, they need different kind of personalities. So it's not only you being a great bakers, they need good bakers, great bakers, but also they need people to fit into a certain narrative. They need some people like this, some people like that. So I just want people to know that it's not because you don't get in that you're not talented.
Yes. Yeah. That's important to remember.
Yeah, exactly. It really, really is important. And I think, and you're totally right. I mean, Lisa and I are pretty aware. I mean, we've watched enough, Great Canadian baking show, the Great British Bake Off. They all have a very similar format in terms of how they, the casting and building a really interesting group of diverse cultures and personalities and age demographics and all that kind of stuff, and regional demographics as well, that we know that we would never be on the same season anyway, because we're just too alike, right? We're roughly around the same age. You're a bit younger than I am, but we're from the general same area, and we're very similar, personality wise too. So we would never be on the same show, which would be really, which would be a lot of fun to actually be.
It would be super fun, but I mean, we would drive everybody else crazy.
I'm sure we would, but I think unless they do like a paired event, right? Like a double, having having like a, like the Amazing Race. It's a couple thing, right?
Oh, that would be fun.
It would be so fun. I don't know if I would want my husband with me on the show.
I'll do it with you.
Yeah, it's a better idea.
I think they do that with.
He would want to. He would want to try, and I'd be just like.
I think they do that with Crime Scene Kitchen. You've heard of that show?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so it's a duo. Yeah. So you could apply both of you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and
that would be kind of fun.
That would be really fun. I would love to do that. Yeah, I mean, it has always been all about the Great Canadian Baking Show for me, but I'm opening my mind to other avenues. We'll see.
Yeah. There you go.
This is
and how about
fun.
you, Saïd? Would that be something that you would want to do or explore? I know you've done some segment with Mary Berg recently on her show. Is that something more that you would like to see? Taking your talents.
Like being on a competitive show, you mean?
Competitive, or just being more on TV segments as sort of the pastry expert?
I think so. I think TV can be a lot of fun, very stressful, but a lot of fun at the same time. And so I had that segment with Mary Berg recently, and probably gonna try to have some more segments with at this show in the next few months. But it's in Toronto, so it's a little bit more complicated, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be cool. And I actually last year I actually had an audition. Like, I've never said this anywhere, but I actually had an audition to be the TV host of a baking show at Food Network USA. Yeah, I didn't get in, but I had an audition, which was amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
On itself was amazing. So just being there, and I had 2 auditions. The first one went well. The second one went well as well, but I didn't get in. And I think it would be great to be on TV, not because I don't care about being famous at all. This is gonna sound maybe a little bit cold when I say that, but it's just that the moment you're on TV and you host a TV show, for your business, this is it will just go up. It will just get
Mhm.
better and better because people tend to trust. Even though people think that TV is dead, I don't think TV is dead. People tend to
Mhm.
trust people on TV more than people who are not on TV. That's a fact. It's easier to run a business like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It's easier to have people trust you, even if you've always had the same kind of talent. If you were to
Mhm.
go to the Great Canadian Baking Show, people will just be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
know that person. She's great. I'm gonna
Levels you up
Yeah.
listen to the
in
podcast."
Yeah.
people's minds. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the TV show that you auditioned for, is it one that's already has had multiple seasons, or would it have been a new show that's up and coming? Or
They didn't
you
want
don't
to
know?
say.
Oh,
They
Oh,
so
so
you didn't
you
they
even
didn't
know
even
what
know.
you were,
I didn't know.
but
It was a secret. They said you're gonna audition for a TV show. You're gonna audition to be a
Cool.
TV host and baking expert at Food Network USA. If you get in, you're gonna host your own TV show, and you are going to be invited to be the expert at every time there's something about baking at Food Network, you will be the one invited. But they never
wow,
said what. They
that would have
never
been a
said
great
when.
opportunity. Well, hopefully your name is in that circle now, and maybe that opportunity will present itself again for you one day soon.
Maybe, who knows?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Yeah, I bet you got your hopes up quite a bit there.
Quite a bit. I cried. It
Hmm.
was no. And my hopes were like so high because I thought, okay, that's it. Like if this works, especially
Yeah.
after I nailed the first audition, I thought to myself, okay, this is gonna be great. My business gonna I'm gonna
Hmm.
finally be able to live off baking and pastry
Yeah.
comfortably. And yeah, when I heard about the second audition not working, I was devastated. For 2 weeks, you couldn't talk to me. I was just hiding, and yeah, I was. But that's life. Again, like just like I said for the Great Canadian Baking Show, it's not because I didn't make it that I'm not good,
Hmm.
and it's not because it didn't work for this specific thing that it might not work for something else better or not. I think it's important to
Hmm.
keep your mind
I mean,
Yeah.
open
you're
and yes.
yes. Yeah. And that will bring about other opportunities that will be just perfect for you. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you just have to trust in the whole process,
Hmm.
right? And trust that when it's your time, it'll be your time to shine.
Yes.
And yeah, it's very
Yeah.
cool.
Um,
So,
go
oh
ahead, Christina.
no, 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 go,
I know
Lisa.
what you're going to say.
Oh, go ahead
Well,
then.
I think it's time for a game of this
This,
or that.
that.
Why
Oh,
don't you
there's a
ever say
game.
it like me?
Okay. Nobody told me about this. Okay. Gotta get ready.
Saeed, yes, you
Let's
got to
go.
get ready. Are you ready?
Settled
I'm
in.
It's
ready.
So
intense. It
this
can
is
be intense.
yes. Well, no, not really. This is how it works. We will throw something at you, and you will catch it.
Ready?
Okay.
We will throw a couple of options at you, and you decide, or you just let us know which one you prefer. It's pretty
Okay.
straightforward. So,
Yeah, and generally there is no judgment.
oh, here
No,
she goes
okay.
again.
If there's no judgment,
If
I can relax a little bit. I'll just say
yeah,
what I
She won't
think.
judge
Okay.
you. She judges me. She won't judge you.
you're safe. You're safe. You're our guest. No judging of guests.
First question: croissants, plain or filled?
Plain.
The
Plain,
classic.
classic butter.
Classic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I
So do
really
you
want a croissant. Sorry,
yeah, no kidding. And a good croissant. I mean, it's hard to get a really good croissant, I think.
not at
So
his
Yeah.
house.
no, obviously not at Saeed's place. It's too bad we don't live in Calgary.
Yeah, that'll be on our cross Canada tour.
Yeah.
We'll head
So
down
Yeah.
to Calgary.
Right? Exactly. We should and try out Said's croissants for sure. But do you have croissants at your house like all the time? Is that like a normal staple in your household, or is it a special
Um,
occasion when you
if
bake
I
them?
open if I open my freezer, there's just gonna be croissant falling on me. That's how many
Oh,
croissants I have all the time. There's always to the point that it's such a normal occurrence in my place to have always croissant that if I don't have any, my wife is like, I don't get it. There's always croissant in this house. Why not today?
Mhm.
I want one. But yeah, there's always croissant in my house. There's right now I have two croissant
Of
dough
course.
ready and at least 10 croissant in my freezer.
wow.
Yeah.
Yum.
I'm
You're
jealous.
lucky.
Yeah.
I
He's
need to get
lucky.
a
He works at it.
I, yeah, okay, fair enough. But still, like to have croissants on demand almost is
I
like
know.
that would be
His
awesome. I
wife
need to
is
get to a
lucky.
point. Yes, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I need to go to get to a point where I've got 10 frozen croissants in my freezer waiting to be baked.
Oh my goodness. I want one of those sheeter things that,
Yes.
they did. I saw
Oh,
on Instagram. They're like, this is how croissants are made. And it's like, oh,
Right?
fold, fold. I'm like, really? That's not how I make them. It's a
you
lot
you
I've been
harder
know,
than
making
that.
it's 100 times easier when you have a dough sheeter. I don't want to diminish our professional bakers' achievements, but I've
Sure.
worked with a professional dough sheeter and I know how to make them also by hand.
Yeah.
With the machine, like you said, Lisa, it's just beep, 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 and it's just like spread out perfectly evenly, and
Yeah.
you just roll it. I one day I'll have one.
Mhm.
One day I'll have enough space and the budget, and I'll buy myself one.
Yeah.
I know. I've been
So
looking
worth it.
even the manual ones, right, with the little crank handle. They're like $1,400 on Amazon.
Right?
It's like,
That's too expensive.
Yeah. No.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot for having 10 croissants in your freezer. The cost of the value proposition just
Oh,
isn't there yet for
no.
me. And then plus where do you store it? Because it's a big
Yeah.
piece of
A
equipment
monster.
as well. Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
I have
Okay.
enough of those in my kitchen.
Yeah. So yeah. We'll
Next
just
question.
do it manually again. Good for the arm workout, right?
Yeah.
So the next one, classic French pastries or modern fusion desserts?
modern fusion desserts.
Oh,
Okay. Do you have a favorite that you've been perfecting of late?
Um, there's two things that I've been working on in the last on and off in the last few years. I really want to nail a good black sesame and mango dessert, and
mm,
also want to have something like bean, like Japanese bean
the
and
red bean
tea
paste.
cake. Yeah, the red bean paste. Those are two things that I really want to work on. It takes time to develop a really good recipe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mhm.
I might get French. The French might be mad at me for saying that out loud, but the French techniques are amazing. They're the best in the world. But I find that in terms of flavor, there's not a lot of innovation.
Mm.
The flavors that you can find are
Mhm.
amazing,
Mhm.
like hazelnut, Paris-Brest,
Yep.
vanilla. Everything is great, but it's
Yep.
always the same. And I wish there was a little bit more innovation. But it's French culture. It's been here for
Mhm.
hundreds of years, and it has to be in a certain way. I prefer to lean more towards like something more modern fusion desserts.
Okay.
Awesome.
So do you have a class like a French classic that you just love?
Croissants.
Paris-Brest,
Yeah. Besides croissants.
Paris-Brest.
Paris Brest, yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's that hazelnut
Yeah.
cream, the hazelnut praline, the choux pastry.
Mhm. Mm.
I have chills talking about it. I love this dessert so much.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the praline that does it for me. The hazelnut praline is
The
just such a
praline
lovely
is,
addition, and that extra texture that it adds
hmm
with the choux, I think is just phenomenal. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
It's heaven.
Why are we doing this kind of show when I haven't eaten enough yet?
I know, right? I'm
Everything.
always
I'm
hungry.
I want that.
Or you want to go bake, right?
Yeah, want to bake and
I gotta
forget
go
to
make
eat because that's what I do
yeah.
most of the time.
I got to make a Perry breast now.
I know everything you say. I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. It's been a
Yeah.
while, or
Yeah.
what can I use as a fusion dessert with a classic? Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
next question. White, dark milk, or some other kind of flavored chocolate? What's your preference?
Milk. Milk
Milk
chocolate
chocolate.
is the
Ooh.
best. I don't want
Do
to
you like
hear
to
the
dip your pickles
haters.
in milk chocolate?
No, who does that?
That's
One of
a thing
you?
that's
Oh,
been going
that's
around apparently.
no, not
No,
us.
no, 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 no,
Definitely not us.
no.
It's a viral thing online right now.
Yeah,
Dipping pickles in chocolate,
yeah.
apparently. I don't
Stupid.
understand it either.
Okay.
Okay,
Right?
It's okay.
so
Yeah.
we should
I'm
be
not
haters
judging.
of that.
Right?
It
Judgment
might be
free
good.
zone.
Yes.
Yeah, like we said,
People
judgment-free zone.
who like milk chocolate, I think, are the best kind of people. It is
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
be.
Right. Right. We are the best kind of
Yes.
people. Christina, you're not a milk chocolate fan?
You know what? I'm not a huge chocolate fan in general. I know, right? I know. Unless it's like fudgy. Um,
Hmm.
like it's weird. I'm weird. So I don't dislike chocolate. I just don't like chocolate on chocolate on chocolate on
Mhm.
chocolate. You know?
Oh, oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. This I
Different.
right?
agree with you.
Yeah.
I like when there's chocolate, but not when it's like overwhelming, to be overwhelmed by chocolate.
Mhm.
You know those you very often you will go to a restaurant and they will have a death by chocolate dessert. I would never get this one. You know when they have a chocolate cake with chocolate ganache with no,
Yeah.
that's too
Yeah,
No.
much.
too much. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to have a chocolate cake, I want something that's nice and rich, not overly sweet, almost like I love black cocoa. We talk
Mhm.
about it often on this show. I love that, that extra broodiness of the black chocolate. But I like to pair it with vanilla. Or cherries or
Mm.
raspberries or some sort of, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
something other than, yeah. So it's got to have sort of that vanilla or a pastry cream or something like that kind of balances it all out. Because yeah, and I just find it like chocolate on chocolate on
I mean,
chocolate.
how many bites of just pure chocolate can you have before you're just chocolated out, right?
For some
Yeah.
people, that's endless, though, right? Like there's so many chocoholics out there too, which is fine, right? There's
No
a
judgment.
No
dessert.
judgment.
There's a dessert for everybody, even chocolate covered pickles, apparently. So
Next question, please.
chocolate or vanilla?
Oh,
Chocolate or vanilla? Oh, vanilla, but
oh no,
just
he has to choose.
because it
Yeah.
it has
Mhm.
so much weight. Uh, and I actually love vanilla. I actually love vanilla, and I think
Mhm.
it's easier to pair vanilla with something
Mhm.
else than chocolate. But yeah, vanilla for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I mean, I literally put vanilla in
Yeah,
everything that I bake
pretty
has
much
vanilla in it.
everything. Yeah.
And talking about choosing between chocolate and vanilla, and you mentioned that combination before. Recently, I made a chocolate and vanilla cake. Like it was a vanilla mousse and a chocolate creme in the middle, and I did it only because I
Mm.
know that this is like a common combination, but I didn't think it would work, and it works. It works so well.
Mhm.
Chocolate and vanilla is an
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
combination. And if you make a chocolate mousse and you
Mhm.
with vanilla extract or vanilla bean, it's also amazing. It
Mhm.
enhances the taste of the
Yeah,
chocolate mousse.
Yep.
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
In fact, I
I mean,
actually add vanilla to my chocolate ganache all the time. Just to,
yeah.
Mm.
Vanilla is fantastic for
Mhm.
that. Like when I'm making a blueberry sauce for pancakes, if you put the vanilla in, once you put the vanilla in, you're all of a sudden you're getting a completely different like depth of flavor. It's delicious.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just
From
adds that
from
extra. That
For me, vanilla is kind of the bay leaf of baking.
Mhm.
It's the thing where you're like, does it add a flavor? Like, why should I put it? But when once you remove it out of the dish, you realize how delicious,
Yes.
how 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 big of how much flavor it added to the actual dessert, right?
It
It's the
really does.
ultimate influencer.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Macaron or choux?
Oh shoot.
To make or to eat? Or both?
Both to make and to eat. I prefer choux. Choux because it's one of the first thing I learned how to make. Macaron because I don't like macaron because they can be pain, a pain. I hate them. Some days I love them, some days I hate them. I like especially when I was making like when I was creating my macaron course, I realized how much parameters can just influence like the success of the
Mhm.
failure of a macaron. And there's too many things. Um, and yeah, I just prefer
Yeah.
Okay.
I think both of them are actually really wonderful vessels for anything and anything flavor combination wise. I just love
mm,
the flexibility of them and the versatility of them. Choux, especially savory or sweet, there's so many different things that you could add in there, and macaron too. I mean, you could do some more savory macaron as well, but for that balance of that sweet and salty or that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
mm,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
they're good vessels for endless flavor combinations.
Endless
agreed.
deliciousness.
Yes, endless deliciousness for sure. Okay, this might be a bit of a challenging one because you have probably worked quite extensively with both of these. But French butter or Canadian butter, and is there even a competition here?
French butter.
He doesn't.
For
Yeah, of
for me, it's French
course.
butter. It's I grew up with it,
Mhm.
and so that's that. But also,
End of story.
Yep,
yeah, end of story. End of story.
yep, yep, yep,
That's
yep,
really all you have to say. I mean,
yeah.
I think we say we're a judgment-free zone, but if you had chosen Canadian butter over a French butter, I don't know what I would be thinking.
O- Okay, I
They're
just want to add something. I just want to add that there are some incredible Canadian butter,
Very diplomatic.
but they tend to be very expensive,
yeah.
very difficult to get access to sometimes.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about Carl's Creamery, St. Bridget
Yes.
butter, Thornlow butter, some of the Gailey butter. There are lots of
Yeah,
very good Canadian butter, but it's not, it's expensive.
Yeah.
yeah. And again, it's that accessibility, right? Yeah.
Mm,
Well, all butter is expensive. Even not so great butter these days is crazy
yes,
expensive.
Yeah,
So
when you're going
agreed.
to
yeah,
Walmart to buy your butter. Yeah.
and it's still like $6 if you're lucky.
If you're
It's
lucky.
if you're lucky, $6 a
Mm,
pound. But
yeah,
generally, they're creeping up. I can't believe it. Like even Costco.
yeah.
I mean,
I
it
know.
used to be
I know. It's crazy.
2.99 a pound of butter at
Yeah.
Costco, and
Yeah.
now it's like five every time I go there. It seems like they're creeping the price up an extra 10, 20, 30 cents.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
It's
at the
crazy.
store just this morning. The butter was at 9.69 a
That
pound. And it
no,
was
that is
not a fancy
ridiculous.
butter. 9.69.
In
I
Calgary,
just ran out.
that is distressing.
Yeah. Well, at least our gas is inexpensive in Calgary.
Yeah, at
Well,
least.
I remember when it was
So
43 cents a liter, but let's not go there. Let's go on to the buttercream.
I remember
Uh,
when they used to have like gas wars back
yeah.
in like the 80s when
Hmm.
I think the cheapest gas I ever got was like 18 cents a liter.
See, that's just
But it was a gas
distressing.
war that was going
Yeah.
on, and it was in Castlegar or something like that. It was so
Not
cheap.
happening. Not happening
Oh,
now. Never
no.
Yeah.
again.
And I just aged myself like considerably. So you
No,
have an
you did.
idea.
Like I don't remember the 80s. Anyway, buttercream, American meringue, or some other kind of buttercream. What's your
My
go-to?
favorite is the Italian buttercream, Italian meringue
Mhm.
buttercream. Swiss is good as well. But no, I think
Yeah.
Italian.
Yeah.
Italian.
I mean, I find them fairly similar. What brings the Italian meringue buttercream to that next level versus a Swiss one for you? Is it like
That's why I
maybe just the
hesitated
texture
between those
slightly
two.
different, or
I think it's the texture. I think it
yeah,
tastes slightly less sweet with the Italian one because it has been
yeah,
cooked. The syrup has been cooked, but it's. I'm really like. I'm not sure I would be able to differentiate between one or the other in a blind taste.
yeah,
Yeah, true.
I'm not sure
yeah?
I would
That's
be able
fair.
to. But the American one, I would know.
Okay.
But yeah, I prefer the Italian.
Exactly. And the Italian one, I think, is slightly more stable, especially in hotter temperatures too. I think you've
Oh
got,
yeah, true,
you
true.
know,
With
yeah,
the sugar syrup.
yeah. All right. Being a pastry chef or being a neuroscientist? Is this even is this even a question for you these days?
Oh, that's a question I've been asked many times. Like, do I want to go back to neuroscience? Do I regret being not being in that field anymore? I do not regret one single second. I Pastry is what I would do, hopefully for the rest of my life. But yeah, I have nightmares, and I'm talking about nightmares where I'm supposed to go back to the lab and be a neuroscientist again. So it's yeah, pastry chef for me.
Yeah.
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 So you're exactly where you should be right now. Is following your
Yes.
passion and baking up those beautiful works of art.
I love it. That makes me really happy. I mean, I worked for a long time to become a labor and delivery nurse. I was an operating room nurse before that. And yeah, I have had those same kind of nightmares about having to go back to the operating room. So,
See,
uh,
yeah, that's
yeah.
when you know that you have made the right decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I'm happy not to be going back
Yeah,
to work
she's like, I'm just
again.
retired. I'm just happy about that.
Or just doing it on my own terms now,
Yeah.
right? Because I still have a few little contract things that I do
Mhm.
here and there, but it's nicer being able to be, being your own boss and taking on what you
Mhm.
want rather
Mhm.
than, you know,
Doing your own thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Precise measurements or intuitive baking.
Both. Precise measurement first, and then intuitive baking second. Um, if I had to choose, I would say precise, but I think that's one of the biggest misconception when it comes to baking is that it's all about have being precise. But everyone who has baked for a long time knows
Mhm.
that sometimes you have to look for the perfect texture. You have to look for how shiny your dough is, your batter is before you know if you have to put it in the
Mhm.
oven or not. For me, like for example, like when I make croissants, I need to know what it before I start laminating. I always say that the butter should have that specific texture. So, and
Mhm.
I don't know if that's called intuitive baking, but at least it's about using your senses when you're baking, and not
Yeah.
just baking
Yeah.
like a robot.
That makes
True.
total sense. Yeah. And
It
the more
brings
you do bake, oh, sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I was just saying how it brings me back to one of our guests, Rafikat. She said that her tip to us, her baking scrap. We ask everyone for one, so start preparing one now in your head. Her baking scrap was treat baking as a science because it is, and then once you have that under your belt and you've worked with it as a science for long enough, then you can make it an art. So it's about elevating it with the, making everything pretty once you get the basics down. And so I kind of, I think that's along those same kind of lines.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think knowing the intuitive part, I think, really comes from practice.
Mhm.
Practice does make perfect, and knowing, having those visual clues or just the feel of the dough and how it reacts, the jiggle tests, that all the little tips
Mhm.
and tricks along the way that you pick up to know when it's ready to go in the oven. It's like macarons, when you've got that matte finish and you can run your finger along, then you're ready to bake. Don't bake them before that
Mhm.
because you're going to have some macarons happening, and you've got some ice cream to make, apparently. But it's just, again, that practice and going through the process over and over and over again, and really understanding how it needs to look, how glossy or whatever it needs to be, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And then our last question, which is the big one. And if you've watched some of our podcasts, you may or may not be prepared for this, or the Great Canadian Baking Show. Exactly. Butter tarts, raisins or no raisins?
No raisins.
Ah, yes.
She's so pleased.
I mean, they're okay with raisins. They're okay. I mean, I don't hate them, but no raisins.
Not in butter tarts, right?
No.
And it's about preference. So yes, you are perfectly entitled to not want any raisins in your butter tart.
Although you soak yours in rum, which I think does elevate, that butter
nice and
laden,
and then,
or the raisin laden butter tarts with rum might be a bit more palatable.
They're rum laden. I every time I think about saying something about rum, because you're talking about putting vanilla in everything, and I always add a little bit of rum extract also, because I really like that flavor in a lot of things. And I was going to say that earlier, and then I was like, no, I'm always talking about rum. I have to
Judgment-free zone, Lisa.
Judgment-free
zone.
Do what you want. Do what makes you happy in moderation.
Yeah. I mean, I have a giant.
Yes. You do, Lisa.
It's not like I sit there drinking from my giant bottle of Kraken. I just like it to make things taste like Kraken.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Actually, you know what? The Spice Box might be really good. I have a whiskey that I love to work with. It's called Spice Box whiskey. It's a Canadian made whiskey. They produce it out of Quebec, and it's just beautiful. It's got actually different types of vanilla in there. And different spices already it's infused with that. And so it's just got a beauutiful, it's such a beautiful product to actually bake with. I hardly ever drink it. I don't drink it. I usually, and it's funny because I buy the odd bottle every so often from the liquor store, and I'm sure they're like, wow, this woman drinks a lot of Spice Box, but I don't drink it at all. I put it in my bakes. It's in my rum cakes. Anything that we call for rum, I switch it out, and I actually use the Spice Box. It's just brilliant.
It's good stuff. Anyway. Get them.
It's really, and we're not sponsored by Spice Box, unless they want to sponsor us, which would be okay with.
Sponsored by. Please. One week can be sponsored by Kraken, and 1 week can be sponsored by Spice Box.
Right?
I don't think they would ever expect that they'd be sponsoring baking shows.
A lot of people though bake with liqueurs or liquor. There's a lot of that amaretto or limoncello or rum and
it's delicious.
Tequila, champagne. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Beer,
Cointreau, Grand Marnier for the crêpe Suzette, for example. Yeah.
So good. Ugh. Yeah, no, I don't drink very often at all, but all of those things, it brings to mind a lot of different desserts that would be just absolutely delicious. So yes. Oh, we should make a tiramisu also.
Yes, exactly. Add that to the endless list of all the stuff we need to bake.
My friend was visiting this weekend from Philadelphia, and I was like, okay, what do you want to do with our touristy day? She wanted to go to the olive oil company. So we have this shop called the Olive Oil Company with all these flavored olive oils and flavored balsamic vinegars, white balsamic vinegar and dark balsamic vinegar. And I got an espresso balsamic vinegar, and it is so delicious. So I have to figure out how to incorporate that into a bake.
Oh, that could be amazing. Like you have the sweet, the acidic, the bitterness, so many different things in one product. Ooh.
Yeah. It is so good. And I only bought a tiny little bottle, but it was like not expensive. So I know I can go back. Like she's gone to Philadelphia. Who knows when she's going to come back? But she bought herself a couple of big bottles of the ones that she liked, and I know that I can go back there, and there's so many different options. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that
It's
vinegars can really add something to a bake.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Mm.
yes,
See,
love.
all the I mean, that's the fun thing
Oh no.
about baking, right?
Yeah.
It's all about that experimentation and trying out all the different flavors and coming
Yes.
out with your own flavor combinations
Yep.
that appeal to you
Mhm.
or that you come across in and the influences that you have, like be
Yeah.
it from being, going out and traveling, or you're at dinner somewhere and somebody's put a really cool combination of stuff together that you want
Yeah.
to can't wait to get back home to
Mhm.
kind of replicate or
Yes.
try to infuse it
Play
into
with.
something else. Or yeah,
Yes.
it's so fun.
It
What a
is
So
great
fun.
many
hobby we
different,
have. What a
I
great thing
know.
we
right?
do. Or line of work
Job.
in your case. Saeed, this is, your
Smart
career,
man.
and it's, I mean, what a brilliant career choice.
Yeah.
Neuroscience, baking. I mean, is it
Yeah.
even really a competition at the end of the day? It's just, I'm so glad that you've, followed your passion
Mm. Yes.
and are doing what you're doing. And it's really so cool to see that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing it with all of us, because that is
Hmm.
it's a blessing. It's wonderful. I'm very excited every time I see something you pop up in my feed. And speaking of sharing, do you
Yes.
have a baking scrap, a tip or a trick that you would like to share with our listeners?
Ooh, does it have to be a tip or can it be like general advice?
General
Any
advice is always
general
welcome.
advice works.
Hmm.
Um, I would say don't be afraid to fail. Keep baking, just start. But the one thing that's gonna make you better in baking is failing, and every time you fail, just write down what you did that
Mm,
day. Why do you think the failure happened? So that next time when you're gonna bake again, you're gonna be able to do something better, to bake
yeah.
something better. And and I think it was one of the theme of the conversation today, even if it's not as good as you think it was supposed to be, try to upcycle that bake by cooking it a little bit longer until it becomes dry so that you can have some crunch.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, um, yeah, I don't have any other idea right now, but just make sure to my mind just
Crumble it
went
up.
blank.
Blitz it. Yeah, no,
But
that's
yeah,
okay.
blitz it, have fun. I just want. I think that's one of the main thing that I see people telling me I failed and it didn't work out. I should not try again. Just try again, and I swear this is gonna get better at some point.
And then
Yeah.
it will feel like such a triumph when you nail it.
Exactly, like the way you feel when you manage to do something that you're proud of and you can share it with your friends and family
Yeah.
is it's such an it's such a great feeling. And I just
Yeah.
hope everyone can
Unmatched.
just experience it one day, unmatched. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that is awesome. And so before we wrap up, we'd love to give you an opportunity to maybe speak a little bit about your online training platform that you do have set up.
Mhm.
How can people sign up? Like, what are your words of wisdom there? And yeah, help us understand a little bit more about what it is and how do people sign up and get online and hopefully be able to bake these amazing things that you put out on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. So, I have two sorts of offers right now. So the first one is the Pastry Nerd Club, and you have two exclusive monthly recipes for which you have a video, you have a PDF, and yeah, it's a monthly subscription. The other thing that I have is my courses or master classes. And for this, you buy the course and you have lifetime access to it. And with the course, you have everything you need to know to be able to make that specific bake. and FAQ section and support for me, like lifetime support. If you have any problem while doing any of those bakes, you can just reach out to me and I'll be happy to respond. And for those courses, I have courses on croissant, mousse cake, tarts, macaron, and cream puffs.
All
Do
the
you
good
do?
stuff that you need to know how to bake.
Yes.
Exactly. All the most important basics of French pastry. And once you master all of this, like you're the king or queen of the world.
Yes, for sure. Do you
There
do
you go.
any in-person classes at all?
I do not give in-person classes for now, but it's in the works. Hopefully, this is going to happen by December this year, but I'm working on it.
Great. Exciting. Well,
That's fantastic.
we hope to take a class from you in person one of these
Yes, that would be
days.
awesome. And hopefully we'll see you back on TV one day soon, either back on Mary Berg or a different program, or hopefully you get that opportunity to be a judge on a future Food Network or show. That would be amazing to see you in action.
Yeah,
And
we're rooting for you.
yeah,
Thank you.
And
be so
people
much
can
fun.
find you on Instagram at the Pastry
The
Nerd.
Pastry Nerd. Yes.
Fantastic.
Love that.
Anywhere else?
They can find me on my blog, thepastrynerd.com.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Saïd. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. We're super excited. You've gotten me very inspired. I have the rest of the day off, and I'm going to be in my kitchen, probably baking up every single thing I can think of because it all sounds so good and exciting right now.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
such a
inviting me.
pleasure.
That was a lot of
Of
fun.
course.
And if you're ever out this way, please let us know. It would be wonderful to connect up with you and maybe tour some local bakeries and find some great little hidden gems out here too.
Oh, yes, that would be amazing. And same to you. If you're ever in Calgary, please just send me a message. I'll be happy to meet you.
We
Thank you
definitely
so
will.
much.
Thank you,
All right.
Saïd.
Thank you.
Take care. All the very best.
Okay, you too.
Bye. Well, what a great, fun, insightful conversation with Saïd, the
Yeah, I
pastry
really
nerd.
enjoyed that. That was so much fun.
I can't believe he owns part of a vanilla farm. Are you kidding me?
Can you imagine what that would feel like to be like, yes, my grandmother and then my uncle, they're in vanilla and they have a vanilla farm. I'm so lucky that I can access vanilla. And then to find out last month, be like, by the way, it's actually your vanilla farm. You are King Vanilla.
I seriously, my goodness. I mean, and you know my love for vanilla.
I do.
It's my favorite. And
Yeah.
so that is just like mind-blowing, amazing to me
Yeah.
to, you know,
I know.
to have that much access to great
I
vanilla.
know.
Because as you know, everything's expensive, but vanilla is crazy expensive
Yes.
as well. So if you could have like uh, dairy farm, get your fresh butter and
And
high
chicken?
percentage whipping cream and milk and cheese, and then you have a vanilla farm. I mean, wouldn't
And
we
then
all
you
be
have
set?
chickens, and then you've got the eggs.
Eggs, yes, a chicken farm.
Yeah.
We should be farmers, Lisa.
That sounds like a lot of work. I don't want to milk cows.
I think they have machines for that now, though.
That's true.
Isn't it all like automated for the most part?
Well, if
Unless-
we could buy a fully working farm for peanuts, no EpiPen required, then perhaps
There you go.
it would be nice to have it all on hand. But it is a lot of work to actually get it, farm to table type of thing.
Yes,
So
it certainly is.
I do really appreciate the convenience of getting 5 dozen eggs from Costco for $19.99, and apparently vanilla that's watered down from Costco.
It's still pretty decent vanilla. I don't want to slag it completely, but just I
like
saw
it.
that.
It tastes great.
Yeah, it is. It's a fabulous vanilla, actually, either which way. But I saw that on Facebook when it was either Facebook or Instagram. I mean, and somebody made that comparison, and they said, FYI, Canadian vanilla at Costco is X and vanilla out of the US is Y. And I happen to have a bottle of each of them in my
Mhm.
pantry at the time.
Wow.
And so, sure enough, I look at the back of the package and I'm like, that's why. Because remember, probably about, can't remember, it would have been almost a year ago now, vanilla actually went down in price at Costco. I don't know if you remember
I
that because
don't
it
have a
always
Costco
hovered.
card, so
Oh, okay.
no, I
It,
rely on other people to buy it for me, and then I just pay them whatever they tell me I need to pay them.
gotcha. Because it was hovering around, I would say about $18, $19
Yeah,
for a
for that
bottle.
bottle, yeah.
For that bottle. And
Yeah.
then right now it sits at around, I want to say I haven't bought it from Canada for a while now since knowing that,
Mhm.
but it was around, I think 14 to 15,
Oh,
16.99, somewhere
wow.
in there. So it actually had a substantial price break.
Well, at least they
Now
put
we
the
know
price
why.
down and they didn't try to keep selling it for $19 when it was
That's true.
watered down. Anyway,
Yeah,
fine. It's neither
that's
here
true.
nor there. I need a Mexican vacation so I can get stocked up on vanilla again because that's where I like to get my vanilla from. I have some Dominican black vanilla that I got from a friend
Oh,
of mine.
black
And yeah,
vanilla.
yes, yeah. It has
Hmm.
I don't know. I had a Barbie dream kitchen when I was a kid, and that was scented of vanilla, and it smells like this black vanilla. And so
Oh,
I don't know if that means it's like an artificial-ish scent, but it's different from the vanilla that I'm used to. So yeah,
interesting.
I
And
know.
speaking of vanilla scents, I used to wear a perfume. There was one that was out on the market. I can't remember
Yeah,
what it's called right now, but it was vanilla scented.
vanilla fields.
Oh, was it called Vanilla
There
Fields?
was one. I
I
don't know.
don't know. I don't think it's called Vanilla Fields for some reason, but it was like vanilla. And
Yeah.
I like if I could bathe in it, I would have because I just again, my love for vanilla.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Let's
little
be
too
about it.
far, but maybe that's, and I did that like I was 12 or 13 when I started wearing it. I
Yeah.
think I wore it until I was like 17 or 18. Maybe it wasn't so cool anymore.
I hear
But
you. It's like
man, it
the
was so good.
Drakkar Noir of perfumes or
Right? But
body spray.
I was hungry all the time.
Great. But what else is new, right? Aren't we still hungry all the time?
Especially after we speak to these amazing guests that we have, I really want a croissant bad now.
I know. I know. I have to get off of this computer so that so I can go eat and bake and enjoy the rest of my day off. So I'm going
Yeah.
to wish you a very lovely rest of your day. And
Have a
thank you for
wonderful day
joining me
yourself.
today.
Thank you for joining me. Like we have a choice. No.
You're stuck with me now.
Raisins
Oh,
and all.
no. Raisins and rum, not such a bad yife, as I used
Yeah,
to
there
say
you
when I
go.
was a kid.
There could be worse. There could be worse
Could be
things for
worse.
sure. Like
Yeah.
chocolate covered pickles.
Oh my God. Don't know. That was another time. That was another week. We don't have to drag it forward. All right. I'll
Anyhow,
talk to you later. Thanks
sounds
for
good, my
listening,
friend.
everybody.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy baking,
baking.
everyone.